In recent years, we've seen quite a few game mechanics that really blew our minds. You know, features in games, things you do in gameplay that really felt unique or just up the ante. Now, we've got 10 cool examples here, so let's get started off with number 10. We gotta talk about Super Hot, the whole concept where time only moves when you do. Super Hot's a first-person shooter. It's also really good in VR, and its main thing, the main jive of the game, is time only moves every time you move. I mean, actually, time just moves incredibly slowly when you're stopped, but like, you get the idea. What this does is lets you do crazy John Wick inspired action scenes, but with regular human reflexes. It's kind of like the video game version of accessing that extra percentage of your mind theory where you can do crazy stuff, because the game has so much flexibility in how you move and react to the game world moving when you move, kind of like becoming a weird type of game of chess or something like that, where you're quickly punching a man, dodging a bullet, moving to the left, grabbing a bottle, throwing it at another man's head. And you're kind of doing this in this start and stop motion where you're stopping, you're looking around, spotting your next move, and going for it. It just looks incredibly cool when everything is stopped. I mean, it makes the game kind of feel like you're this video editor, like you're scrubbing, you're speeding up and down, slowing the footage down in real time. And at this point, this mechanic is synonymous with Super Hot. The only other game that even tries something similar is the retro indie FPS Dusk, which has a power-up that's like a direct reference to this game, but otherwise, we don't see this concept in enough games, and we really want to. Super Hot is awesome. If you still never played it, and you like shooters, but also just weird creative things, it's worth experiencing just for that gameplay alone.
Super.
Now, next over at number 9, we're going to an obvious one, but a damn good one. It's the Leviathan axe in God of War. How it feels, and specifically, how it returns. You know, in the game, you can throw the axe with the trigger button, and then you press triangle to bring it back to you. This one is all in the presentation. The sound effects are perfect, you know, the way the axe curves through the air, and Kratos catches it out of the air with his hand simply always makes you feel like a badass when you do it. So many games have gameplay moments where you throw things, even stuff that comes back like a boomerang in Legend of Zelda, but none of them are as satisfying as God of War, simply because you actually press a button to make the axe come back. If it returned automatically, it wouldn't be as satisfying. They're letting you feel the power of getting that thing to magically come into your hand. There's something so weirdly satisfying about God of War. I mean, like, I'm definitely not the only person to do this. You ever throw the axe as hard as you can, then turn around and walk as far as you can in the opposite direction, only to eventually press the callback button, and it's so far away that there's like this delay effect. You have to wait for it. You hear it smashing through things for it to suddenly appear and get in your hand. That's awesome. It feels like Thor with Mjolnir or something like that, and it never gets old. I mean, it's hard to explain, but you just have to play it and feel it. It's simple, but it feels really good. Next, over at number 8, we gotta give some love to the Nemesis system. This one technically is a bit older than some of the games on this list, but hey, we think it really deserves some love. The Nemesis system, which was born out of Middle-earth, Shadow of War, and Shadow of Mordor, kind of served as a game personalizing itself to you. The game's enemies would essentially react and mold themselves into newer, more evolved villains over time. Did you outsmart a mid-boss and cut off his arm? Well, maybe he'd come back later in the game with a missing arm, or like a hook for a hand or something else like that with a chip on his shoulder. He's higher leveled, he may have more of a resistance, and he really wants to take you down. The amount of time that would happen in these games, like you burn an enemy, you think he's totally dead for good, for him to show back up later in the game when you're in the middle of another boss fight and totally thwart your plans, and he shows up and he has a resistance to fire, and now he has these cool burn marks on his face. It kind of made for like surprise wrestling showdowns where your favorite heel would suddenly come running into the ring to knock the good guy out when you thought he wouldn't even show up. But it made for so many unique experiences that would just kind of randomly generate themselves, and it was so cool. We thought it was going to be a thing that every other developer would copy because it made for endless fun, endless enemy encounters, but it's really just these two games, and seemingly maybe their next game, the Wonder Woman game, but this is a shame because it needs to be in more. For us, it's one of the few, you know, a real small handful of next generation mechanics we've seen from a major publisher in a while.
Laddie boy! See this face? It's the last one you'll ever see.
Next, over at number 7, let's talk about the Thought Cabinet from Disco Elysium. Now, this one is more mind-blowing in the conceptual level than the visual level. It's from a really great, thought-provoking narrative RPG. How this works is that talking to people or performing actions can generate thoughts. These can range from like the banal and boring and pointless to the actual profound or useful. Now, from there, you can equip them in your thought cabinet, which is basically the game's way of saying that your character is actively thinking about these ideas, keeping them top of mind. Now, depending on the thought, you'll get different bonuses and penalties, but only after you internalize them by waiting a while. Along with actual stat bonuses, because it is an RPG, these are also connected to unlocking new dialogue options and how you can become different types of like a cop, like an art cop, where you think you're a performance artist, or a hobo cop, where you can decide that you're like a homeless person. Now, the thought cabinet, while it is confusing, it's very high concept, it is just an incredibly clever idea. It's basically a place where the game's collected thoughts go, ideas that you get while talking to people. It's an ingenious way of illustrating how ideas are spread and become internalized in a way that's both fun and appropriately weird for a really weird game. Next at number 6, let's talk fighting with your own time travel copies. We've seen this in Lemnis Gate and Quantum League. This truly mind-blowing mechanic kind of hurts to think about, let alone explain, but let's try. So it's time travel, but with a twist. Rather than just rewinding time, you can reset, but somehow keep the previous timeline. This is used to brilliant effect specifically in Quantum League, which is a competitive first-person shooter with 3 rounds. Now, round 1, you play the game normally, then round 2, you play as a copy of yourself. Everything you did in the previous round is still in play, but now you can do something else in an attempt to counter or affect what happened in the previous round, and then you do it again in the 3rd round. Effectively, it turns a 1-player game into a 3-player game, with you playing as all 3 of your teammates. It's bizarre, especially when you start changing the timeline while your opponent tries to stop you or change things to their advantage. It's about as literally mind-blowing as a game mechanic can get. It's incredibly confusing, especially when you first jump in, but it can create some like amazing strategies. These games are impressive, but niche for a reason. They require a level of like 4th dimensional big brain thinking that is beyond a lot of us mortals, but it's still really cool game mechanics. Next, over at number 5, let's talk about the Batmobile and everything from Batman Arkham Knight. Now, the Batmobile isn't everyone's favorite part of Arkham Knight. It relies a lot on the tank stuff, but if there's one mechanic associated with the game specifically, it's the actual control of the Batmobile. I mean, there are so many games that let you call in your horse or your vehicle, but none are anywhere near as satisfying as this game. With just the press of a button, the Batmobile will come charging in from off-screen down the street, and if you stand still, Batman will automatically jump up and into the car. Now, if you're in the air, then it'll trigger kind of a cutscene, like a real-time thing where Batman dives onto the ground and then gets into his car, and it's seamless. All of it is really smooth. There's some big moments in the game that involve the Batmobile where you can counter ambushes or solve puzzles by remotely controlling the car, like the first real appearance of the Arkham Knight where Batman looks like he's surrounded, but you can actually summon the Batmobile and take out every enemy like they're nothing. In another little touch, if you can drive close to Batman, then he'll just automatically hop right into the car. From that to just turning into a tank and moving in more directions with the left trigger instantly, seamlessly, all of it is just really well made, well constructed. It feels good to play. It's obviously pure power fantasy that combines some incredible technology with fun mechanics. Every game lets you call in a car or a horse like we said, but Roach or Red Dead Horse or Epona or anyone ain't got nothing on the Batmobile. Now over at number 4, let's talk indirect multiplayer mechanics. Think Journey, Dark Souls games, Bravely Default, Nier Automata. There's the obvious stuff like notes and bloodstains in Soulsborne games, but some of the most mind-blowing indirect multiplayer mechanics are some of the most unexpected. Like in the first Dark Souls, where your first major objective is to ring the Bells of Awakening. That seems like a single-player only task, but one interesting thing is that you can actually hear the bell ring in your game when other players manage to ring their bell. One of the first games to use indirect multiplayer really in an abstract and experimental way is Journey, where you can find companions or other players who can journey along with you. They can't help you or hurt you in any way, but they appear, and just having other players around makes the experience feel more unique. You're not hopping in a lobby to matchmake, you're not really communicating with these people too much other than some noises, and it's really natural and cool. Now, probably the most mind-blowing moment of indirect multiplayer we can think of is the ending of Nier Automata. So, spoiler alert, obviously, but at the end of the game, you literally fight the credits to stop the story from ending, which is nearly impossible. After you die a few times, the game gives you the option of requesting help. And when you do, you'll get messages from other players and like words of support, along with actual help to make the final gauntlet much easier. It's a powerful moment of community in a game that's incredibly bleak normally, and it blew our minds when we first experienced it. That, and you and the community finally completing a road to make your life easier in Death Stranding, are just really, really cool. Multiplayer without doing too much multiplayer stuff. Now down to number 3, we got to talk about a really satisfying one. It's the Mikiri counter from Sekiro. Now this is another simple but effective one. There's the standard counter, which is activated by blocking at the exact last moment before an enemy's attack hits you. You know, it's pretty standard stuff. But later on, the game introduces a second form of encounter, the Mikiri counter, which is used to counter thrust attacks, usually from spears or swords coming straight at you. Now, instead of blocking, you have to dodge forward to trigger these, which can feel really awkward at first. You're not used to doing that in these games, but it can become so amazingly satisfying after a while. It adds an entire new level of strategy and aggression to the game. You know, you're not just thinking about timed blocks anymore. Now you have to respond to these Mikiri moves as well. This move feels crazy satisfying to use because instead of just deflecting, you always expose the enemy to attack when you use it. The Mikiri counter has Wolf stomp down on the weapon, which leaves the enemy wide open to an attack. It's a move that it's tricky at first. You're gonna hate it, especially because you're just so trained on mastering regular countering, and now you have to worry about this thing, but when you pull it off, it is chef's kiss. Next, over at number 2, let's talk secret mechanics. Now, spoiler alert for Inscription, Tunic, The Outer Wilds, and The Witness. But one modern innovation we've seen is the way some games just intentionally keep some of their mechanics a secret. This is actually kind of an old school thing. There are puzzle solutions, parts of gameplay, and even something as basic as the controls that are intentionally kept secret from the player. I mean, Inscription is a great example where the depth is hidden from the player. What starts out as kind of like a basic card game becomes so much more complex as new rules and mechanics are slowly introduced. You gotta just kind of experience it for yourself. A major game to introduce this idea is The Witness, where progression isn't locked by the abilities you find, but the knowledge you learn. Now, as you solve puzzles, you learn the meaning of certain symbols, which makes previously impossible puzzles become understandable. It's all about what you know, rather than what you have. The Outer Wilds is the same, with its mind-bending quantum mechanics that are never straight up explained to you. You have to figure them out through experimentation. Tunic keeps basic gameplay mechanics secret from the player, like leveling up. You just gotta figure that stuff out. Every time you figure any of these gameplay mechanics out, it makes you feel like a genius. I guess that's why this type of secret mechanic thing is so popular. It's an interesting way to force players to really engage with the game they're playing and get more satisfaction out of figuring it out. Now over at number 1, we're going to end this on a really simple but still brilliant one. It's the Guiding Wind waypoint system from Ghost of Tsushima. In most games, checkpoints are an immersion-breaking necessity, like things just pop up and tell you what to do, tell you where to go. But Ghost of Tsushima came up with a way that was pretty clever to really fix a lot of those consistent problems with open world games. Now with the flick of the touchpad, you can generate a gust of wind that gently points you towards your next checkpoint. Instead of an ugly glowing marker on the screen that distracts from the natural beauty of the world, you just get some immersive wind that blows in the direction you need to be headed. It's a simple and elegant solution that's mind-blowing in how effective it is, and there's some customization to it depending on your preferences. Other environmental effects like birds that lead you to points of interest, and foxes that you can chase to find shrines, are other ways that the game just kind of naturally leads you around without forcing players to check their map all the time, or just have big yellow arrows everywhere. It made for a really surprisingly chill game, and we loved it for that. those are 10 mechanics we thought were awesome, but can we include a bonus real quick? It's the time dimension jumping stuff from stuff like Titanfall 2 and Dishonored, even Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. You know, that instantly jumping from one period of time or one dimension to another seamlessly is just cool as hell. You love to see it. That's gotta be really hard to incorporate in games, and we love them. Anyway, those are some cool things you can do, some modern additions to gameplay that are really innovative and fun and mind-blowing, and we know there are more out there, so we'd love to hear yours in the comments. If you got any examples of a gameplay mechanic or thing you do that really blew your mind, hit us up. If you enjoyed this video though, clicking the like button's all you gotta do. It really helps us out. And if you're new, maybe consider subscribing or hitting that notification bell, because we put out videos every single day. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.